Your boy, I'm that guy, and today I'm back with a new video, a collection of horrible fates by Scary Interesting. Now, if you do enjoy these videos, make sure to like and subscribe. They do help me immensely. And if you do like Scary Interesting's videos, it will be linked in the description below. Thank you, and now let's get into the video.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Scary Interesting. In this video, we're going to go over two cases of people who went missing and were found years later. And when they were found, the circumstances of their disappearance were far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. The second story in particular is one of the most horrific stories that's ever been covered on this channel. So although it's fleeting and non-descriptive, it's still highly disturbing, so viewer discretion is strongly advised. Joyce Carol Vincent was known as a living beam of light to all those who knew her. With a father from India and a mother from Africa, Joyce's physical features included a dark complexion, big brown eyes, and long curly hair, and she was a showstopper everywhere she went. Beyond her physical beauty though, if she gave you the time of day, it was her personality that really hooked you. She was kind, bubbly, and always looking to squeeze as much as she could out of life. In a single word, Joyce was unforgettable. Born on October 19, 1965 in London's Hammersmith area, she was the youngest of 5 girls, making her the baby of the family. Her parents had emigrated to London from Grenada, and she was the only member of her family that was actually born in the UK. The family was a middle-class, blue-collar one, and Joyce's father was a hard-working and skilled carpenter who supported the family on a single income. And it's said that Joyce picked up her magnetism from her father, as he always seemed to attract all sorts of people for his personality and charm. Despite their commonalities, however, her father was said to be an emotionally distant father, so Joyce gravitated more toward her mother. Tragically, however, her mother passed away when Joyce was just 11 years old, leaving her 4 sisters to try to fill the void in raising her.
Chat, remember, man, remember, this is very serious. We're going over some very serious topics, man, keeping it calm.
But even still, life after her mother's death got a bit rocky for Joyce once she hit her teenage years. Until she was 16 years old, she attended an all-girls school in London, but she suddenly dropped out and never received a degree. For what Joyce planned for her life, however, she didn't need one. Regardless of some of the hardships in her upbringing, Joyce never stopped fostering big dreams for herself as a musician. More than anything, she wanted to be a pop star, and after leaving school, she started to make a lot of new friends in the music industry. She would end up having the chance to record a few songs in the studio. She once had lunch with Stevie Wonder, and when she was 25, she appeared in a video with Nelson Mandela during a tribute show for him at Wembley Stadium.
Dang!
But as well positioned as she was to start making her own way in the music business, Joyce never seemed to get her footing in.
She living it
up.
up.
She chased this dream of hers. She worked day jobs to support herself. She started in 1985 as a secretary for an overseas container company in London before moving on to a global professional services firm called Ernst & Young. Having never graduated from high school, you might think that Joyce's work there was menial at best, but she very quickly climbed her way up in the company. Before long, she was working in the Treasury Department with the responsibility of moving large amounts of money around the company. And it should be no surprise that Joyce was popular among her colleagues at work. Not only was she hardworking and reliable, but her personality just brightened everyone's day.
Yo, man, she is a dropout, chat. This is what I'm trying to tell you, bro. Not everything needs an education. She came in there, put on the little charm, and now she working as a treasurer. She's moving the money on. Damn, her life glowing up, having lunch with Steve Wonder. That's some shit that your grandpa will tell you. You think he just capping. Having lunch with Steve Wonder and pictures with Nelson Mandela. You be like, grandpa, grandma, stop the fucking cap. You a high school dropout. You ain't securing no type of funds. She was up in the Treasury Department, bro.
This, it was heartbreaking when in 2001, Joyce abruptly quit the company without giving anyone a solid reason as to why. And then after leaving Ernst & Young, it was like this popular, promising woman simply vanished off the face of the earth. But for those who knew Joyce a bit better than her coworkers, this wasn't necessarily out of character for her. You see, the group of people she hung out with was ever rotating, not because Joyce was on the outs with anyone, but because she just had a tendency to jump from one social circle to another. It wasn't odd for one of her groups of friends to spend a night out with Joyce and then not hear from her for a good while. So when she appeared, only to inevitably disappear again, her friends just shrugged it off as Joyce being Joyce. However, when she left Ernst & Young suddenly in 2001, this was around the same time she actually started to distance herself from her family and friends. Usually, if Joyce departed from one friend group, she could be found in another, but that wasn't the case this time.
That's kind of weird.
Instead, it's believed that she'd been in a romantic relationship with a man for a couple of years up to that point, and he was the reason for her pulling away from everyone else in her life.
Yo, chat, that's mad dangerous, bro. If you got somebody in your life that's telling you to cut off your relationships with your family and friends, don't do it. That shit's mad dangerous.
After leaving the company, Joyce reportedly moved into a shelter for victims of domestic violence, and her isolation could have...
Yo, red flags, man. Yo, police, go and talk to that man.
...simply been the product of not wanting anyone to know what she was going through. She may have felt...
When I mean bash his head in. I mean really talk, man. Talk with, give him some sense.
...shame around being a victim. Or it could have been that she just didn't want the man who had been doing this to her to know her whereabouts. And sadly, during this time as well, Joyce started to live a life of underachievement for someone who had accomplished so much during her career. She took a job as a maid at a rundown motel, and after spending several years at the shelter, she moved into a one-room flat above the Wood Green Shopping Centre in London. This was owned by...
Man, family, you need to check up on your kids, man. You need to check up on your family. Make sure to check in, bro. Make sure to check in. If you haven't talked to your family in a while, make sure to call.
Metropolitan Housing Trust, reserved specifically for victims like Joyce. In November of 2003, Joyce had a bit of a health scare, and she was admitted to the hospital after vomiting blood as a result of a peptic ulcer. However, after 2 days there, she was stable enough to return to her studio flat on her own, where she continued to reside. In early 2006, the Housing Trust noticed something odd about Joyce's account that had gone unseen to that point. Because half of her rent money was coming from the government through housing benefits, the system didn't flag the fact that the other half of her monthly payments weren't coming in for more than 2 years. When they finally became aware of this, the Housing Trust had no choice but to collect the unpaid rent, totaling £2,400, or repossess the property.
2,400? 2,400? Yo, chap, if you think I haven't been paying that shit for about, what they say? But
to collect the 2 years.
2 years? 2,400? That's just not getting paid.
When they finally became aware of this, the Housing Trust had no choice but to collect the unpaid rent, totaling £2,400, or repossess the property. On January 25th, 2006, authorities arrived at Joyce's flat to formally kick her out of the property. When they approached her door, they noticed that the TV was so loud that it could easily be heard in the hallway, indicating that Joyce was occupying the flat. Several attempts to get her to answer the door were then made, but other than the blaring television, there were no signs of movement inside her apartment. Then, after giving her sufficient time to come to the door and let them in, authorities began kicking at it. A few swift hard kicks broke it open, and as police stepped inside, they had to do so over a mound of unread mail sitting in the doorway.
Oh shit, that's bad. That's bad.
Immediately, they could see that the apartment was somewhat messy and unorganized, but Joyce had also taken great care in wrapping a pile of gifts that she must have planned to deliver to friends and family at one point. Some reports say that she was found lying on the floor, and others say that she was in her bed, but tragically, Joyce was found dead. That much was immediately and abundantly clear. This is because whenever Joyce passed away, her death had taken place so long ago that her remains were mostly skeletonized.
Yo!
And that's about where the clarity surrounding her death stops. How she died was not immediately apparent, and initially authorities couldn't even be certain it was her because of how badly decomposed she was by that point.
Yo!
Her body was in such a state that a full autopsy couldn't be performed, but the coroner did manage to use her dental records to positively identify the body as belonging to Joyce. Joyce apparently suffered from bouts of asthma, so it was possible that she could have passed away as a result of an asthma attack. Or because she was dealing with a peptic ulcer that had gotten so bad at one point that she had to be hospitalized. This was another possibility. A further review of the apartment by police revealed very little for them to suspect foul play was involved. There were no signs of a break-in, and the front door was even double locked. The only other way to leave the flat was through the window, but the apartment was located in a complex in such a way that this was not a very likely scenario. So, with nothing at all to sway the police in that direction, they ruled her cause of death as a result of natural causes.
Nah, brother. I'm saying this once, I'm gonna say it again, bro. Yo, go to that boyfriend, brother. I'm suspecting something. Something in my back of the neck, you know what I'm saying? It's itching me. Police be so ready to stop doing their job, man. They so ready. They so quick. Man, you better go talk to that boyfriend and see what's going on. What's good. Because she could have opened the door for him, and then he could have done something and walked away. Like, that shit's crazy.
On her death certificate, the coroner simply listed it as unascertained. During the investigation by police, several of Joyce's neighbors were interviewed, but none of them ever noticed anything ordinary. She was known to keep to herself, and her neighbors rarely saw her. It was also a rather loud building with thin walls, so blaring television wasn't...
Yo, man. I'm not doing blaring television for 2 fucking years. 2 fucking years. 24/7. You're talking about blaring television for 2 years straight. 24/7, because the TV didn't magically turn on when they start walking in. 2 years of blaring television. I'm telling you to turn that shit down, brother. After the second day, a 24-hour binge? What the fuck you doing?
enough to spark any complaints. And Joyce's apartment also sat just above the outside dumpsters, so the smell that came from her flat after she died was attributed to the garbage. When police looked into how her TV service, heat, water, and electricity were still operational, they discovered that Joyce had set everything up to automatically come out of her account every month, so none of those companies had a reason to reach out to her. The best...
Yo, that is so tragic. That is so tragic. The only time people notice that you died is when you stop giving them money. That, you know how crazy that is? When you stop giving them money, they start giving a fuck. That's crazy, bro.
Clues as to when Joyce passed away were actually found inside
I wouldn't want to go out
itself.
like that. That's sad.
When police searched her kitchen, they opened her refrigerator to find extremely spoiled food in containers marked with
No shit! She had, like, nothing been happening for 2 years.
expiration dates all the way back in 2003. This meant she died just before Christmas 2003. Then for more than 2 years afterward, Joyce's body lay inside the flat without anyone ever reporting her missing or
So you're telling me from 2004 to 2006, that loud ass fucking TV was going off 24/7. That loud ass TV in that stink apartment was stinking and blaring for 3 years. You got me fucked up.
coming by to check on her.
You got me fucked up if you think I'm living next to a person that's blaring TV for damn 3 years straight. I will break down that door my damn self.
Upon hearing the news, of
Turn
Joyce's
that shit
death,
off.
friends and family members alike were stunned. She had grown reclusive and isolated in the last 2 years of her life, but she never went unloved. In the years that Joyce's body lay dead in her apartment, her sisters tried to get in touch with her through letters that went unanswered. They even hired a private detective to locate her, but this was obviously an unsuccessful effort. When all else failed, her family could only assume that Joyce had abandoned them, and out of love, they decided to give her the space they believed she was after. So, her habit of disappearing and reappearing in the lives of those who knew her is the best explanation of how someone so unforgettable could have gone so tragically forgotten.
That's
Ollie
insane.
and Anna seemed so perfect. What people didn't know was she was screaming for help.
This marriage's not healthy anymore.
It was a normal Sunday afternoon on October 6, 2002 in Richwoods, Missouri, when 11-year-old Sean was starting to get antsy. He was getting bored and restless, so around 1 p.m. he went to his stepfather Craig and asked if he could ride his bike over to his friend's house. This was something Sean had done countless times, and his friend didn't live too far away, so Craig didn't give it a second thought before smiling and telling his stepson he had permission to go play. Sean then hopped up and went over to his mother Pam to give her a hug and kiss before he left. She told him to be home by 5 p.m. for dinner, and then he grabbed a light jacket and ran out the door. Sean was known as a good kid who was responsible beyond his years. While Pam and Sean's biological father hadn't been together for many years by that point, Sean and Craig had developed a special relationship. When Sean was just 6 years old, he walked his mother down the aisle and gave her away during Pam and Craig's wedding. And over time, he became
Craig's
like Craig's
foster
little
father.
shadow. Wherever Craig went, Sean was usually not too far behind, even as he grew older and began to approach his teenage years. All of that was about to change, though. Sean grabbed his bike outside and began to pedal down the gravel country roads toward his friend's house. And suddenly, a white pickup truck that was coming down the road veered toward him and knocked him off his bike.
Yo, what the hell?
The driver then quickly exited the truck and rushed over to Sean, but the purpose of this wasn't to see if he was okay. Instead, he quickly picked the child up and threw him in the truck before tossing his bike in the back.
Oh shit, chat. Oh shit, that made me sick to my damn stomach hearing that shit. He didn't come to help or see if he was okay. He swerved. Swerving means he didn't do it out of you know what I'm saying, out of accident. Because if you swerve to miss, to try to avoid. He swerved, hit him, and then he pick him up and
speeding off down the gravel road.
pick a bike up and took him. Oh shit.
In the blink of an eye, Sean had been taken. Sometime later, when they
I swear to you, no, this is insane.
learned that Sean never showed up at his friend's house, Craig and Pam panicked and immediately called the police to report their son missing.
I'd rather die on impact than have that shit happen to me. I'd rather die on impact, death. I know.
Within hours of his disappearance, the town of Richwoods was crawling with sheriff's deputies and volunteers hoping to find some sign of the
You
young
get
boy.
kidnapped?
He would have taken
Kidnapped
that
is the
day.
worst thing.
Dogs were also brought out, and while they did pick up Sean's scent, it went nowhere. The search continued in the days that followed, and as the days became weeks, officials started to pull back on the effort. As they did, Craig cashed in his 401k retirement plan and everything they had ever saved and put all the money toward finding Sean. They eventually set up a foundation in Sean's name to aid in the search for missing children, but tragically, the search for their own continued to go on without any developments. In that time, newspapers and TV stations, even those about 55 miles away in St. Louis, picked up the story of Sean's disappearance, but soon enough, that started to wane too. Even still, St. Louis investigators chased down more than 400 leads that came in, and the search would go in every direction. They searched caves, rivers, strip mines, abandoned farms and trailers, cemeteries, and they even drained lakes, hoping to find any sign of Sean. Their every effort, however, turned up nothing, and after a year had passed, the team working the case began to face the very real possibility that Sean would never be located, and if he
Dude, it's because when it comes to these types of scenarios, there's only so many people you can guess to who could have done it. You know what I'm saying? The obvious suspect you're gonna think is like, okay, was it a relative? Does he have like a bully or beef with somebody? If not, like, is it the biological father coming and doing some weird shit? Or is it somebody closer that's like trying to pretend, like pitting everyone on a wild goose chase when the person's actually closer to home than thought? I don't know, man.
It was unlikely he'd be found alive.
I have no idea.
Meanwhile, Sean was not only alive, but was living a complete nightmare. The man who took him drove him back to his one-bedroom apartment in Kirkland, about an hour away from Richwoods, and from the moment he arrived there, the man had tied him to a futon and kept his mouth covered in duct tape. During this time, he was subjected to horrific, depraved acts of all kinds. After days of this, Sean was granted some level of freedom in captivity. The man would untie him from the futon and allow him to roam the apartment at will while the man was home. When he would leave, however, Sean would once again be bound to the futon and left to wait for the man to come home. After a few weeks of this, his kidnapper suddenly and unexpectedly told Sean that he was going to take him home to his family around the end of October. So one day, the two got into the man's truck, but he didn't drive Sean home. Instead, he took him out to a desolate logging road.
Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. When these type of sick, depraved people do this shit, of course they're not. They don't be having no come to God moment. You know what I'm saying? They don't ever have these types of moments.
And along the way, Sean became extremely alarmed. The driver soon parked, got out of the vehicle, and came to the passenger side, where he ripped Sean from the seat and pulled him to the back side of the truck. He then wrapped his hands around Sean's throat while he frantically pleaded for his life.
Shit.
He tried to fight.
This is deep.
6'4",
Shot. This is fucking deep, man. This is really deep.
300-pound man was just too strong. As this was happening, Sean promised that he'd do anything the man wanted as long as he didn't kill him, and upon hearing this, his grip on Sean's neck started to loosen a bit. He suddenly dropped his hands, leaving Sean free to gasp and catch his breath after coming close to blacking out.
Are you looking for a career in IT? The Computer Technology and Network Administration program.
The man then agreed to let him live, but only on several conditions. Sean had to promise that he'd never try to contact anyone or try to run away. If he did, the man would find him and kill him. And after the attempt on his life behind the truck, Sean knew the man was serious about what he'd do if he ever tried to free himself, so he agreed, and the two got back in the truck and returned to the Kirkland apartment. As time passed afterward, Sean continued to earn more privileges. The first was that the man stopped tying Sean to the futon when he left the apartment. In those moments of peace, Sean would pass the time most often by sleeping. Then, about 7 months after he was taken, Sean was allowed to make friends with a 13-year-old neighbor named Tony. As the two got to know each other,
Chat, and I'm gonna be honest, this is the most horrific scenario that could happen. This is the most horrific scenario. Best case scenario, this never happens. But this is terrible.
other, Sean spent a lot of time with the family and never
Oh
once
my
did he mention his
God.
real identity. Instead, he repeated a carefully crafted script given to him by the man. He would go on to tell the family that his name was Sean, but that his mother died in a car accident involving a drunk driver, and so now it was just him and his father. Tragically, the months of horrific treatment that he continually faced had effectively made Sean a captive in his own mind, despite the fact that he actually had the ability to safely reveal the truth of what happened to him at any time. He even joined the family at restaurants, and they even took him to different events, including balloon races. They grew so close, in fact, that they'd have holiday celebrations together, but the agreement Sean made to never run and never tell was one that he was holding firm to. And at the same time, the family never saw a reason to question him, as the man appeared to be a great father who never left Sean wanting for anything. He bought him a new bike and a video game system, and the two appeared to have a close and healthy relationship. And unfortunately, this would result in this horrifying ordeal going on for years.
That's what I'm saying, chat. That's what I'm saying. And people are like, why didn't he, man, first of all, it's a child. And second of all, when these type of things happen for as long as they do, from 2002 to 2016, that's 4 years of this shit, man. That's 4 years of this shit. He has Stockholm syndrome. He can't get out.
In 2006, 4 years after his abduction, Sean would have several more prime opportunities to free himself from his captor, but he never took advantage of them. One day, he and Tony were riding their bikes around the neighborhood after the town curfew, and they were stopped by police officers. The two friends were then escorted back home, and never once did Sean mention who he was. And simultaneously, the officers, despite the news surrounding Sean's disappearance, didn't recognize him either. On another occasion, Tony's family was sitting in their living room with Sean, and the television was turned to the local news station. Suddenly, Sean's face was flashed on the television screen, accompanied by a story about his disappearance. Tony's mother then immediately looked over at Sean, who was sitting in a chair staring back at the image of himself on the screen, and she asked if that was him. He then responded by laughing and denying that he was the Sean the reporters were talking about. By that point, he was 15 years old, so some of his features had changed from the photo of himself at 11 years old, making it just plausible enough that they weren't the same person. So tragically, the issue was then dropped and never mentioned again. Sometime later that same year, Sean actually came across the foundation website his parents had set up in his name. On it, there was a contact form that Sean would go on to fill out twice. In neither message did he identify himself as their son, but both emails contained the same one-sentence question, which read, "How long are you planning to look for your son?" But unfortunately, neither of Sean's
That's
parents
so
ever
eerie,
responded to
dude.
either inquiry.
That's so
As
scary.
one missed opportunity followed the next, it appeared unlikely that Sean was ever going to be reunited with his real family, but something happened in 2007 that made him suddenly fearful that his time alive was running short. One day, the man came home with a new boy that Sean viewed as his replacement. In January of that year,
This is what I'm saying. These people don't have no come to God moment. They don't have no revelation. This is not something fixable. You know what I'm saying? There's not, when people do these types of things, I don't see no redemption for them.
13-year-old Ben got off a school bus in Franklin County and started walking toward home. A 15-year-old classmate named Mitch got off at the same stop and started walking in the opposite direction, but he whipped back around when he suddenly heard the squealing of car tires. When he did, he saw a white pickup truck speeding away from where Ben was just walking. As soon as he got home, he told his parents about what he saw, and they notified Ben's family, who called the police immediately.
Thank God.
Just like in the case of Sean.
Chat, thank God. Thank God he had the sense to turn around and make sure his partner was all right.
A thorough search ensued, but there was no sign of Ben. What police did find, however, were perfectly preserved tire tracks on the gravel road, believed to be from the pickup truck that took him. Casts of the tracks were then made, but police had no idea at the time that Ben's disappearance was about to break the case of Sean's disappearance wide open. As the search for Ben was getting underway, investigators met up with Mitch to get as much information from him about what he saw as they could. And what they ended up getting was much more than they hoped for. So much, in fact, that they initially didn't believe him. In the course of a split second, Mitch had somehow managed to ascertain that the truck was a Nissan with a camper top, an elongated window down the side, and a 2-inch trailer hitch. He also said that there was rust and dirt all over the fender. Incredibly, about the only thing that Mitch didn't get was the truck's license plate. FBI agents who sat in on the interview were stunned by what Mitch was telling them. It's highly unusual to get this much detail from a witness, let alone a witness in his teenage years, but Mitch just so happened to be obsessed with pickup trucks. He could spot the broadside of a truck for a split second and list off any number of specs about it just by sight alone. Mitch was so sure of what he saw, and he convinced police that everything he told them was accurate, which instilled a lot of confidence in authorities. So as soon as they had the details down, officials released an all-points bulletin, or APB, out to the entire state of Missouri, asking officers and the public to be on the lookout for any vehicle matching the description. And just a couple of days after Ben was taken, news was running a story about the disappearance as a pizza shop owner stared at the TV screen during a lull in work. When he heard the description of the vehicle police were looking for, his blood ran cold. He turned to look outside the pizzeria, and there it was, the white Nissan truck with a camper top and trailer hitch. Its fenders were even covered in road dust as if it had recently been driven down gravel roads, which was highly odd for a place like Kirkland. The pizza shop owner then thought back to a few days earlier, and he recalled the day of Ben's disappearance. It coincided with the day 41-year-old Mike Devlin, who was the restaurant's manager and owner of the truck, left early because he was feeling ill. This lead then came into investigators, and on January 12th, FBI Special Agent Lynn Willett arrived at the Kirkwood Pizza Shop with another agent and got into lunch. Behind the counter serving customers was Mike, and as soon as he spotted the agents, he never once looked up at them again. When it was their turn in line, the agent stepped up to the counter and told Mike that they needed to talk.
Yeah,
he then nodded his head, almost as if he knew what this was about, and led them to the back of the restaurant where the truck they had been looking for was parked. They asked for consent to search the vehicle, and he gave it. While Lynn's partner was having a close look at the truck,
I'm doing what I need to do.
Retreated to the backseat of the FBI car for a formal interview. As Mike began to field Lynn's questions, he talked in circles, and things weren't making sense. Not only that, but Mike kept bringing up someone he referred to as his godson named Sean. As Mike and Lynn were turned to face each other, she also had a good enough look at her suspect to actually see his pulse pounding through his neck. Every time he'd bring up Sean, his pulse would quicken, and Lynn initially couldn't figure out why. After going back and forth for about an hour or so about where he went after he left work sick and what he did in the days afterward, the realization hit Lynn with such force that she almost physically reacted. She already knew that she must be speaking with the man who took Ben, but the Sean he was referring to must have been the Sean missing from years earlier. Lynn then tried her best not to let Mike know what she suspected as she brought up the topic of tire tracks. When she mentioned that police took casts of the tracks found at the scene of Ben's disappearance, Mike's face lost its color. It was at this point that she knew she had him. Lynn then continued to press Mike, explaining to him that tire tracks were similar to DNA and that matches could be made to a degree of certainty that not even the best lawyers could argue against. This was the bit of information that cracked him. Mike then dropped his head and uttered, quote, "I'm a bad person," end quote.
Yo, you know what's so fucking crazy? You know what these people are it's so crazy. Because these people go do their little Joker comic book thing. I did something bad. I'm a bad person. Like, dude, you're getting the death penalty. I'm a bad person too. Oh shoot, you in a crowd, you're gonna be in a room full of bad people. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna go to a bad place. Bro, I have no remorse for none of these types of people, especially people that go and harm, it's so unfathomable that you would go and do this shit for, I ain't gonna lie. Strangle that man where he lay. Strangle that man right there. Bash his head in. Because if that was me, I'd turn off my body cam. And what happens after that? Shit, my memory goes foggy. He might have had a knife on him. I saw him reaching for a couple things. I don't know.
For launching
I'll sprinkle a little crack on him.
Confession of how he took both Ben and Sean. Right away, Lynn asked him to take them where he was keeping them. So from the backseat, Mike gave turn-by-turn directions to the agent behind the wheel until they arrived outside his apartment complex. When they got to his front door, Lynn told Mike to go in first so that it wouldn't alarm either of the boys. The door then opened and Mike stepped inside, followed by the two agents. Both boys were on the floor in front of the TV playing video games together, and they suddenly paused their game and whipped their heads around. When Ben saw Lynn, he got up and ran right into her, almost knocking her over and trying to bail right past her out the apartment door. Sean, meanwhile, was frozen. He didn't know what was going on until Lynn looked at both of them and told them they were safe. Mike was then immediately placed in handcuffs and hauled off to jail while Sean and Ben were transported to the police station. Once they arrived, investigators called each of their parents to inform them that their sons had been found alive. When Craig and Pam got the news, they could hardly believe what they were.
Dude, that shit would actually be... Dude, I can't imagine the relief, but just a stone... it must have felt like just a stone in your stomach. You know what I'm saying? Your whole body just got goosebumps. You know, it's just like, what the, like, are you actually telling me? Because this many years looking for a missing person, it's almost certain that that person's done, that that person died. But nah, that's insane.
The officer who spoke to them said that he was 95% sure that the other boy was Sean, leaving a bit of uncertainty as Sean had changed so much in the 4 years, 3 months, and 6 days he was held in captivity. Craig and Pam then raced to the police station, and when they arrived, they were led into the room where Sean sat by himself. When the door opened, he picked up his head and saw his parents for the first time since October 6th, 2002. Craig and Pam then hugged Sean for what seemed like 30 full minutes. Obviously, none of them wanted to let go. Next door, Ben and his parents were experiencing the same joyful reunion. Mike was then indicted in 4 different jurisdictions for all the crimes he committed against Sean and Ben, including the attempted murder of Sean in 2002.
Draw and quarter this mother dude. Like, draw and quarter this dude, bro. Like, actually, this is what medieval torture is for. You know what I'm saying? This is the people that qualify for medieval torture, because I don't think it's fair or unusual punishment. I think it's right around the same level. You know what I'm saying? I'm just preparing you. You know what I'm saying? For the torment that waits for you in the afterlife, so you can just get a sense. You know what I'm saying? A taste. You know.
In St. Louis County alone,
this was really
71 total felony charges, with the first 18 relating to Ben and the last 53 pertaining to his prolonged treatment of Sean. He initially pleaded not guilty, but on October...
I don't even know how... What was your thought process? What was your thought process? You said what you did, and then you're going to plead not guilty? What? So they were just at your house? At your house for what? 4 years? That's crazy. That's crazy.
6, 2007, 5 years to the day of Sean being taken, the prosecution announced that Mike would plead guilty after he learned that police recovered photos and videotapes from his apartment. For his crimes, Mike received 74 life sentences and an
I don't even know the point in that. I don't even know what's the point in that. See, I'm you know what I'm saying? On this channel, you might see me, you might see me go overboard often when it comes to the death penalty, but I feel like 74 life sentences, why don't we just kill him? Why don't we just kill him? He's gonna consume air, food, space, you know what I'm saying? Precious resources that we need for regular people, precious resources. And then people want to say, oh, he's gonna be tortured, he's gonna be in jail man, I know, man, they're career criminals. The people that go in jail for fun. Dude, United States jail system is bad, but it's not the worst thing you could be in. You know what I'm saying? It's not the worst jail you could be in. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Kill this dude.
Term of 2,020 years for a total sentence of 4,240.
Yeah, like, what the fuck is the point in that? 4,000 years? Like, what's the point in that? Just kill him. Just kill him. Knock him off. So, you know what I'm saying? Oh, that's the easy way. I would rather him be dead than be alive, consuming precious resources, you know what I'm saying? Using up energy and food and bed. Like, come on, man.
Years. The first time he'll be eligible for parole, Mike would have to be 100 years old.
Give him that mixture in his blood. Give him that needle. You know what I'm saying?
If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. If you want to listen to the audio-only version of these videos, you can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a member of the Patreon or becoming a channel member here on YouTube. Also, if you have a story suggestion, feel free to submit it to the forum found in the description. And hopefully, I will see you in the next one.
Yo, chat, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you do enjoy these videos. Tune in on the streams. Follow me on Twitch. I'm that guy, and thank you for supporting me. Peace.